Hey everybody, I'm back. This time I'm going to take a look at Master Magic, which is coming out in December 13th, this mid-December. Right now it's in a closed beta, and it is a remaster of a game I played back in '95 with my very first computer. In fact, Master Magic was the first PC game I ever bought when I got my first computer in college. And I fell in love with it. Just an absolute joy. I was obsessed with a game called Civilization back in the day, and that was Sid Meier's Civilization. Of course, you guys probably know about it now, especially with like Civ 5 and Civ 6 being pretty popular. But back then, Civilization was a pretty big deal, and Master Magic looked like that game, but with magic and minotaurs and dragons and such. So I got my hands on a press demo, so I can show off some footage. I had previously gotten into the closed beta a day after I requested press access, and I had assumed that was what I had requested, and then I quickly realized, thankfully before anybody had to slap my wrist, that I was showing off the closed demo. So I had to private that video and remove it. And then just a little bit ago I got an actual copy of the press demo, so I can finally show this off and talk about it. And this is going to work out a little bit better, because since I got my hands on the closed beta, I have been reviewing the old Master Magic strategy guide, and I got obsessed reading it over the weekend. And I am excited to talk about the little nuances and tips and things I've learned, relearned. So let's just dive right in. What is Master Magic? First of all, it's free on GOG, I'm told. I haven't double-checked this. The email I got this morning said it was still free on Good Old Games, GOG. So grab that old copy and prepare to play an old school game with some pretty rough controls and UI, but some charming visuals. I still like, there's some things about the old game I still prefer visually, but this new one is quite pretty and very, very playable, a lot more modernized, and it's going to be, I think, a really big deal for a lot of people, both new and returning to the game. It's helped me pull me back in. I tried playing the old GOG version myself, having played this for about 7 hours, and I kind of bounced right off of it. So let's, but it's free, so if you want to scratch an itch or maybe get a little experience and know-how and apply some of what I hopefully can teach you today to the game before it comes out, feel free to give it a shot. It's free. Okay, so Master Magic is a 4X strategy game. Like I said, it's like Civilization. You expand your empire, you explore caves and dungeons with your heroes and your units, and you find powerful spells and powerful artifacts and equipment to put on your heroes. You research new magic, and you eventually conquer the map or cast the mighty spell of mastery, winning the game. So let's start with a new game. There's some restrictions with this press press demo. I can only pick a couple of pre-made characters, and I think it's like a limited number of turns. So I'm just going to quickly start this off. I have a very limited time before I have to go to work this morning, but I'm going to start this off, get something put together, and then I will we'll talk more in depth when I get some time after work, and then I'll put it all together. So let's get this going with picks. This is irrelevant because you can't customize your wizard in the press version. But normally, the default game is 11 picks, and that gives you like how many blue magic spell books you start the game with, how many red magic, how many black magic. Do you have alchemy, warlord, various traits and abilities that you can start with. You can really start your character in your game in a lot of different ways, just about endless possibilities for how you start the game, and then that really drives how the game's going to play out. So we're going to leave everything basically on normal. It's fine. Leave it all alone. Just continue. So here's what I can pick. I can pick Merlin. And normally when you customize a wizard, you can choose a portrait and then name the wizard whatever you want to name it, and then you can customize traits like Sage Mastery, Conjurer. Mirren means he begins in the realm of Mirren, which is a really strong start, but it takes 3 of your 11 picks. But the world of Mirren is very rich and has some powerful races you can start as, like dwarves and dark elves. So these guys started with, I believe she is high elves and conjurer and some chaos and death magic. And Merlin is halflings, but he researches faster thanks to Sage Mastery and has very defensive magic in the green and white spheres. And then Sra, Draconian, who I believe is leading Draconians in Mirren, with a little bit of chaos and a little bit of life. So let's pick Shari for some chaos and some death magic. And because she has 5 spellbooks, she gets to pick 4 common, no uncommon, no rare spells. If you go all in on one color, you can even start the game with a rare spell. But she's not going to be able to do that. So we're going to start with Ghouls, Life Drain, Terror, and Cloak of Fear. And I think I would like to take... Let's take off Cloak of Fear and put Black Sheep on there instead. What's Dark Ritual? Find only ways to take power from places of worship. Doubles the power received from religious buildings and power. That's going to be useful, but not immediately, because I won't start the game with any religious buildings in my cities. Might as well research that later. Okay. Yeah, so Corruption. This changes terrain, but we don't want to do that around our area. And by the time I come across people I want to mess with, I'll have researched it. So let's grab Warp Wood or Fire Elemental to conjure an elemental in combat. Let's do that instead. Firebolt. Wall of Fire is cool. Warp Creature is cool, but I think we want Eldritch Weapon, which makes attacks from the enchanted unit harder to defend. Alright, we had to pick High Elves. High Elves are really cool. They got a pretty solid unique unit in the Elven Lords and the Pegasus later in the game. They generate mana. They're one of the few races in the game that do that, and they're the only race that starts on Arcanian, the Overland world, that does that. But they grow slowly. They do have a bonus chance to hit, and I'll explain what that means, but obviously it's a good thing. We can pick a color. Let's just pick green, and then hit begin. Alright, so my immediate goals are to just talk about the user interface, and then I'm going to stop the video there. It'll be a short one to start with, but once I've uploaded that and gotten some people interested, hopefully, I will come back and resume where we were, and I'll talk in detail about some of the things I know, or at least how I understand things. And we'll kind of, feel it out from there. It's a really cool game, and I want as many people as possible to get excited about it with me. Based on the brief feedback I got on my last video, I think there will be quite a bit of interest. So I'm hoping to get some people to enjoy this alongside me. All right, so starting off, you begin with a settler and a swordsman, which is a very basic tier unit. You can begin the game building spearmen and swordsmen with most races. Also have libraries. This has research, stables, which will allow various buildings. It'll unlock High Elf Cavalry, Animus Guild, Armory, Sawmills. These are all buildings that are eventually going to lead to mid-level things like Sage Guilds, Fighters Guilds, Forest Guilds, and then high-end stuff like the War College, Fantastic Stables, and even a second Wizard's Tower. But for now, I think what I'd like to do is just have another swordsman on queue. So basically what we're looking at here, this is the map, Overland map. Battles are going to play out like Age of Wonders style in their own little micro environment with turn-based tactical combat, moving your units around. The units are actually interesting because they have a number of figures, and each number of figures gets attacks and defense and has its own health. Not very many for a swordsman, but there it is. Okay, so and we're going to explore. We want to explore these areas. If you click this surveyor mode, you can get some details about the land, and you can see this is a nature node. If I conquer this, I can claim it for my own, and I'll get more power, which I'll explain in a second. This is a fallen temple. Here's a monster lair, ancient temple, ancient temple. So we want to at least pop in and see what's inside. Usually they're defended, and then they have some good rewards. If they're not defended, though, it's just free money or mana laying around. So what is power? Power is, I start with 12, and it's divided up as you see fit. You can adjust things. This is mana per turn. This is research points per turn. This is casting skill per turn. And casting skill, and I start with 20 because of just the various things I picked at the start. Or I should say in the case of her having automatically picked a couple books. I think you get 2 points per spell book to start with. Casting skills, how many how much mana per turn you can spend. If you want to spend, if you want to cast a spell that costs 40 mana, you A, have to have 40 mana, and B, it would take me 2 turns if I didn't spend my mana on anything else to cast that spell. Later in the game, when my casting skill was like 60, I could cast a 40 mana spell immediately. And then how this works is I'm going to gain 4 every turn, and when it rises above this threshold, which is 2 times your current skill, I get another point of casting skill. So over time, your casting skill just generates, and you can go quickly if you want. This will bump it all the way up to 12. So it'll, it's only going to take a couple of turns to give me a point, but of course that's a silly thing to do. In fact, I kind of want to lower this for now, just for a little bit, to have a little more mana and a little more research coming in, because I want to get a decent mana base. We start with a couple spells, One of them was Ghouls, which I could summon 60 mana, and I would have an extra unit to help fight. And I could also summon in combat. I don't see it listed, but it's a combat spell that I know I started with. Arcane spells, death spells, chaos, I thought I started with it. Fire elemental, so I can summon those in combat. Okay, so let's pick research. So, you're going to be offered some various spells, and based on the colors of magic that you have selected at the beginning of the game. I have chaos, death, and arcane is something that everybody has access to, no matter what. They're very basic, sort of like boring but essential spells. Things like summon hero, or moving your summoning circle, or another city, that sort of thing. So we're going to focus on something like Warp Wood, because it basically eliminates it effectively removes a range unit from the game, from combat, because it just makes their attack so meaningless that it's hilarious. Alright, so let's move this swordsman out. You can single left click to remove the animation if you want to speed things up a little bit. And then we're going to move right click to move the settler. It's pretty safe early in the game. There's not going to be a lot of wandering monsters like in the first 20-30 turns of the game in my experience. So it's okay to move the settler out and start seeing what's out there and finding a good place to settle that second city. Especially with the elves, because they grow slow. So we want to get them going as quick as we can. Alright, so I think that's plenty for here. I just wanted to get things started. I know it was a very short introduction, so to speak. I will play the game proper with a good, several turns, and I'll talk about what's happening and how this game works. So if you're interested in seeing more, and you aren't already, subscribe, like the video, let me know if you want to see more. It helps me determine how to spend my free time. So on that note, thanks for watching as far as we've gotten, and I hope to see you later this evening with part 2.